All right, Brand, I am back now with the video of my special guest. Listen, I can put him over for 20 minutes, but I only have 20 minutes with him, and that's his fault and not mine. Let's bring on his beautiful face, Al Snow.
Howdy do, Vince. Thank you
Al,
so
how
much
you
for having me.
doing?
Doing great. Granted, I'm sitting here in the Atlanta airport, but
Al, I'm going to fire away here, bro, because you said we only have about 20 minutes. What
okay.
is your opinion of the psyche of the younger wrestlers today in the business?
I, how to say this and not sound negative or sound like a bitter old veteran. I think that, unfortunately, there's a lot that's being lost and not being taught, being passed down with the art of professional wrestling, the real psychology of the wrestling business, which is that wrestlers these days believe that it's all about two things. One, it's about the physicality, and two, it's about having a great match. When neither one of those things are important at all. Um, the physicality is the least important thing in the wrestling business because no matter what you do, there are only 8 things that the general audience can physically relate to that happens in the ring. Therefore, your big, amazing move that you think the people think killed the guy, uh, they don't buy it because they've never experienced it. In fact, they think the ring's a trampoline or a mattress. And, so no matter how hard you slam the guy down on the mat, they're not going to believe that it killed him or hurt him unless it has some kind of direct consequence, which leads to the great match mentality. Because if you ask anybody, you go on any independent show, anywhere, and even if you go in TNA or WWE and you ask a lot of, hey, who wants to have the best match on the show tonight? Almost every hand will go up in the locker room because that's the mindset, is to have the best match on the show, not to have the match that sells the most tickets. And that really is a wrestler's job. It's not to be a great wrestler, it's to become a great attraction, to motivate an audience emotionally to pay to see them.
Al, how did the car crash replace the psychology? How did that happen?
It became a matter of working for noise and not working for a pop. The real term for pop is short for to make an audience pop their nut, come in their pants, have an orgasm emotionally. Now, you and I know, Vince, and a lot of young guys probably think they can, but you only get one of those. And you spend all your time working up to get it. And then once you get it, all you want to do is eat a sandwich and go to sleep. And that's what happens for an audience. Once they pop, it doesn't matter how amazing or incredible the next 15 moves you have are planned to do, they just want to eat a sandwich and go to sleep. Now, the problem is they'll pop and then emotionally they'll reach a climax, but then the guys just keep going because, of course, they've got to get this stuff that they planned, they think is really cool in. So the young wrestlers today start working for noise and are satisfied with it. But now there's more to it than just that. Around the time, and I kind of put that time at WrestleMania 3. The reason I use that as a guidepost is that WrestleMania 3 was about the time with enough of the older wrestlers were starting to leave the business. And Vince, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but WrestleMania 3 was around the time that a lot of the older veteran wrestlers were leaving the business and leaving a lot of the younger wrestlers without guidance like they had years past. And then and that was where the what we used to call the newsletters or dirt sheets were starting to pick up traction within the wrestling business, but also within that fan community too. And that was where uh, the which I use as an example, the mindset that Randy Savage and Ricky Steamboat had the best match at WrestleMania 3, which I disagree. I think they had an amazing match, absolutely incredible. But the best match at WrestleMania 3 was Hogan and Andre because 93,000 people paid to see Hogan and Andre.
Mm-hmm.
And when I bring this debate up and I bring this point up, I always ask guys who disagree with me. I always ask the guys, okay, I want you to tell me one thing that happened in the Savage and Steamboat match spot wise. I want you even to try to tell me who won. Now, I want you to tell me the Hogan Andre match. You know how many people can tell me
Mhm.
great detail about the Hogan Andre match? Not anybody can tell me anything about the Savage Steamboat match except for maybe the arm drags.
Yeah.
And that's where the mentality became uh, all the wrestlers wanted to be the Savage Steamboat match on the show, and none of them wanted to be the Hogan Andre match on the show because that was not considered to be a great match. Hogan is considered not to be a great worker when really he was an amazing worker. He
Mhm.
knew how to make himself a draw
Mhm.
and did so. And that mindset, that mentality has become prevalent now and is pervasive throughout the entire wrestling business. It's no longer about who can draw the most money, because a lot of guys are on these, downside contracts and etc. So it's and those aren't a negative, but it does kind of take the edge off. It's now, who's going to have the best match. And the best match, let's face it, Vince, the only way you know you had the best match, honestly, is if fans write in a forum and say you had the best match.
Mhm.
Now, let's keep in mind, you're trying to appeal to people, one, who have no experience doing what you do. So now you're basing what you do on the judgment of somebody who's never done it. That's that's crazy, but that's what we do. And it's not just the wrestlers, the writers, everyone now are directed by this vocal forum of fans who believe they know as much as the wrestlers do, even though they've never had the experience to do it. For instance, I love medicine. I'm a huge fan of medicine and medical procedures, so much so that I've watched every medical show on TV. I never miss an episode of House or ER or Emergency or The Doctors or Dr. Oz. I even watch the old ones, Dr. Kildare. I go on the internet every day and I Google my symptoms. I literally go on the New England Journal of Medical Science and read all the articles. Now, Vince, if I were to get sick or break a leg and I go to the doctor, should I tell the doctor how to fix me?
No.
Why not?
Yep.
I mean, I've got just as much information as he does.
Yeah.
Maybe because
Al.
he's got experience and he knows how to use that information,
Yep.
and I don't. you know and that's the problem, is that we as a industry now dictate and direct our performances based off of a vocal few
Yep.
that are diehard fans. Now, here's the thing: a wrestler's job is to do one thing and one thing only, and that's to sell tickets. What one ticket do you know you're going to sell every time? That vocal fan. Why? Well, because if he don't watch your performance, he can't go on the internet or on a forum or a newsletter or tell his friends and family how much he knows about what you do. And let's
Mhm.
face facts. Any critic, whether it's a critic of wrestling, a critic of TV, a critic of theater, a critic of sports, they don't criticize you to put you down. And they don't criticize you to put you over. They criticize you to tell everyone else how much they know about what you do.
Mhm.
That's it. They
Mhm.
criticize you to put themselves over. So if they don't watch you, they don't get the opportunity to put themselves over.
That's a great point, Al. Al, listen, I have to ask you this question because you're the perfect person to ask. And Al, I
Okay.
first want to say it's a WWE question. So I first want to say, Al, I want to give TNA the plug. You work for TNA,
Sure.
the British boot camp, and Destination America now Friday nights at 9 o'clock. TNA is back. This is a WWE question, but I want to ask you because you're the perfect person to ask. Now, Al, you and I both know a very dear friend of ours works in the training center at the WWE, Terry Taylor, who we
Yeah.
both love to death.
Oh, he is awesome.
He's awesome. But Al, I have to ask you this question because you can answer this. This is what concerns me, Al. Al, so many people, Vince, you got to watch NXT. You got to watch NXT. So I watch NXT. I give them what they want. I watch NXT, bro. And here's the thing that concerns me, Al. I'm seeing a lot of these guys come through the system
Uh-huh.
that they appear to all come out of the same mold. My question to you is, spending so many years training wrestlers, bro, and working with the future of wrestling,
Yeah.
is it possible, Al, to put, to put 50 young kids,
Uh-huh.
50 green wrestlers through the same system, through the same training facility, and have them all come out differently? Or since you're putting them all through that exact same system, are
Yeah.
they going to come out looking very similar to each other?
I I don't, first off, I wish I could give an actual educated response, meaning like I've actually witnessed like NXT or I've watched it or I've watched, or I've seen some of the training that goes on at the developmental center, because I haven't. All I've ever heard is how amazing the place is and how incredible the setup is and stuff. But unfortunately, I don't have enough information, because anything I would venture to say would be complete speculation and conjecture on my part, which I've learned to try not to do in a public forum as if I know it as fact, because I don't. But I can say this. I can say that, you know, uh, no matter where, that situation, Vince, was always present in that, let's say, for instance, Vern ran his training camp, and which he did. And Vern had a particular way of teaching and a particular way of training. Al Costello had a particular way of training, a particular way of teaching. You could kind of see a Vern guy, an Al Costello guy. You could kind of see a Malenko guy. You could kind of tell, there were old timers that kind of, you could kind of tell an Ole Anderson if he was kind of took a guy under his wing and kind of broke him in. You could kind of tell the different flavors, especially when they were younger, when they were still green and they were new. You could really kind of tell, because they hadn't had enough experience to develop their own persona, their own style. And that really is the hardest thing for a wrestler to do, and takes the longest to do for some of us, which is to find our own voice, our own, for want of a better term, our own voice, physically and emotionally in the ring when we perform, that connects with the audience in a way that makes us a draw. And that's the thing you're really wanting to try to learn, and that's the thing it takes the longest to learn. But can that happen in that system? I think it kind of has. I mean, I don't watch enough of any one show anymore. And that's not because I don't love wrestling. I mean, I love wrestling, but it's just because I learned a very valuable lesson from Sandy Scott, a former professional wrestler, who told me never to allow it to become who you are. Always let it be what you do. And so I've made a conscious effort to have other interests and not watch it all the time, because it can eat you alive. But like Bray Wyatt was very unique and different than a lot of the others. The Russo character, the Roman Reigns has developed his own style. So is it possible? I guess they're proving that it is. That there are going to be those guys that are going to be able to step out and find their own, again, for want of a better term, physical and emotional voice a little quicker than the rest of the crowd. But they're always going to, like I said, even back in the day when I broke in, you can always kind of tell guys that were trained by a certain guy, because they worked kind of the same way, basically, as that guy did. Had the same mindset, the same approach, even the same footwork. You pay close attention, you can watch guys have different footwork, different timing, different distance that, a lot of people don't pick up on. And, granted, that's not being taught these days as much, but back then it was. And you could really see it. Well, that guy, he must have been trained by so-and-so, because you could kind of get the flavor that he was.
Al, how much time do we have?
About 6-7 more minutes.
Okay, I got two questions for you. We got to get them both in, okay, bro? Here's the first question. When Al Snow first broke in, 1982, Al, what, from a fundamental standpoint in today's wrestling, what still works from back when you broke in, and what no longer works in 2015?
It all still works. It all, and everybody's going to be like, no way, the business has changed. And I say horseshit. Business hasn't changed, because if it has changed, Why is it that I still see guys doing the yay spoo spots on shows, not just, and not just indie shows, but WWE and TNA house shows? Those guys go out and do the same goofy, tried and true spots that worked in 1982, that worked in 1972. So if it's changed, that shouldn't work anymore. The other thing is, intrinsically, there is only one thing that's fake in professional wrestling, Vince. Only one. And it's the one thing that's always been fake. And it will be the one thing that's always fake. And it's the one thing that the audience pays to believe in. And it's the one thing that we are trying to sell the audience on. That's it. Only one thing. And that is that the outcome is not predetermined. That it actually has gravity and
let
means
me
something.
let me stop you right there.
Yeah.
Because we've had this conversation a dozen times.
Sure.
And I've always tried to understand it. Matt Conway, he gave up the second time. He said, Al Snow's out of his mind. I don't understand. He gave up. I'm still trying to grasp it. I'm glad this is the last question. I'm glad you brought that up. Please explain that to all of us, because I thoroughly want to understand your thinking on this.
Okay, listen very carefully. There are two predominant ways to win a wrestling match. What are they?
A pinfall or submission.
Right. Correct. Now, there are two predominant ways to win a boxing match. What are they?
Knockout or decision.
Which means I hit you more times than you hit me, correct?
Right, right.
Two predominant ways to win an MMA fight. What are they?
Submit, tap out, or knockout.
Correct. Now, what's the one thing that's fake in boxing? The finish. They do business. Where do you think that term came from? It came from boxing. Every fight does some kind of business. Do you know why? Because if they don't make money, they don't box. So, if you beating me tonight makes more money, guess what's going to happen, Vince? I'm going to go down. I'm going to do the job for you, which is another term that nobody knows what it actually means. MMA. What's the one thing that's fake in MMA, pal? The finish. Okay? They actually hit each other. For a shoot, they actually hit each other. They just don't hit to win. And they've been told that the outcome is going to be a certain way. They don't hit to win. They hit to get the fight over. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Now, an MMA fighter is a prize fighter, correct?
Yes.
And a boxer is a prize fighter.
Yep.
A professional wrestler, the work is that he's a prize fighter too. That he's out there competing and trying to win so that he can win a title, or he can go up the card and he can now win a greater amount, winner's share of the purse. Right?
Right.
That's what the audience wants to believe in. They want to believe that the win and loss has a consequence to it, because it's the only thing that an audience can relate to. Baseball, football, basketball have huge, enormous audiences. Why, Vince?
The outcome of the betting.
No, because everybody can relate to it. You as a kid played baseball. You as a kid played football, even if it was in your backyard. Even your driveway, you played basketball. So guess what? People watch. That's why hockey has a bigger audience in Canada than it does in the United States, because more people played hockey. That's why soccer has a bigger audience all over the world than it does in the United States, because more people played soccer as children. That's why now soccer is going to eventually overcome a lot of sports here in the United States, because we've got generations now of kids who are playing soccer. We're building an audience. That's why the World Cup was even more popular this year than it's ever been in the United States, because more adults had played it as children. And it's the relatability. Before a person ever steps in the ring, have you ever thrown a drop kick, Vince? Have you ever felt it? Do you know what it's like to take one? Do you know what it's like to take a backdrop? No. Psychologically, all you know is that that drop kick might knock the guy out and beat the other person. That's it. So what we psychologically have completely fucked up is when we have two predominant ways to win a wrestling match, which we all know what they are, and that's pinfall and submission, and they all take place where? 99.9% of the time, that happens on the mat. You can't pin somebody unless it's on the mat. You can't make somebody give up most of the time unless they're on the mat. Am I not right? If it were a shoot, a real fight, you couldn't make them give up if it weren't on the mat, right?
Right, yep.
Okay. How many times do you watch Raw, TNA, indie shows, and you literally watch a guy go out there and the bell rings and he knocks a guy down to the very place he could win, bends over, picks him back up?
Too many times.
So now what have you just told everybody? Two things. One, that you're not there to win. So now there's no consequence to anything that the person does. So if there's no consequence to anything that he physically does, then there's no drama. There's no drama, there's no emotional connection. There's no emotional connection, there's no heat. Heat's not offense in a match, it's a want, a need, a desire to see the end of the story. So you don't have heat, you don't sell tickets. Simple as that. And I always tell guys all the time, if you paid your money to see a boxing match and the bell rang and the guys weren't doing the two things that they should be trying to do to try to win that fight, which is either knock the other guy out or hit him more times than they got hit, would you pay to see the guy again?
No.
Well, then why is wrestling different? I'm just curious. Oh, because everybody knows it's fake? Really? Do you know how long people have known that wrestling's fake, Vince? Seriously?
Mm-hmm.
In North America? Do you know how long people have known in the United States that wrestling's fake? Since 1938. 1930 fucking 8. Do you know what? When I'm 51 years old, Vince, when I wanted to become a wrestler, do you know what my mother said to me? Why do you want to do that? That's fake. Now, my mother's a very intelligent woman, but she is not psychic. So how the hell did she know wrestling was fake and she's never been in it?
Mm-hmm.
My grandmother, God rest her soul, very intelligent woman. I said, I want to be a wrestler. Why do you want to do that? It's fake. How did she know that? She the amazing Kreskin and she can bend flatware with her mind? I don't think so. It's because everybody has known it. Now, why did the business survive and continue to thrive in spite of the fact that everybody knew that the one thing that was fake was fake? Because the workers were willing to go out and make the audience allow themselves to suspend their disbelief while they were watching it. Mm-hmm. Therefore, you didn't insult the audience intelligence by knocking a person down and bending over and picking them right back up. You made everything you did look like you were always doing it to try to beat the other guy. That was it. The second thing is that no matter how amazing your move is, the minute that you do that move and you bend over and pick the other guy up and do another move, you just told everybody by bending over and picking that guy back up that move meant nothing. You thought that was a cool move? Watch this. This one was better. Well, the problem is that because that move didn't mean anything, your next move doesn't mean anything. Because the first move didn't have any consequence, so now the next move doesn't have any consequence. So now if those moves don't have any consequence, what's the finish mean? So no ifs, ands, or buts. No matter what you want to say, no matter how you want to make yourself believe it, the only thing that's been fake and the only thing that will ever be fake in wrestling is the finish. That's it. The reason that people don't grasp that or understand it is because they've never been in the ring and don't relate to it. But that, bottom line, is it. So when guys tell you, oh, the wrestling business has changed, it's totally different now. Really? Well, in 1915, the one thing that was fake about wrestling matches was the finish. And in 2015, the one thing that's fake about wrestling matches is the finish. How we go about that may have altered, may have evolved, may have developed, because ultimately the audience is far more sophisticated these days than it was even 10 years ago. That just means you got to work harder and smarter to get the audience to believe more in that you're out there trying to win and not lose. The storylines, the angles, they've always been present. They've always existed. They just haven't been as elaborate or sophisticated because the audience wasn't as elaborate or sophisticated. But the only reason you wrote a storyline, you made that whole pepper angle between me and Bossman, was to make the finish mean more and it to be relatable to the audience on an emotional level. Not that it was just a win or a loss, that it was now personal. So whenever, no matter what happened in that ring, or in the angle or the storyline, he literally kidnapped my dog, killed it, and then made me eat it. At the end of the day, the audience didn't want to just see me beat up Ray Traylor. They wanted me to beat him to prove I was the better man and get justice. That's why no ifs, ands, or buts about it. No matter what you want to say or how you want to think or you want to spin it, the only thing that's fake in wrestling is the finish. Period.
Professor Al Snow. You see how we can have a 3-hour conversation here, bro?
Oh, we can. Yes, we can.
Well, Al, listen, I don't want you to miss your flight, but I do want to pick this up, bro. We have to do a second part.
Oh, absolutely. I've got a whole lot more.
And February, you said you're pretty much open?
Yes.
When are you coming back from Scotland?
I'll be back on Monday night. So
Okay,
about
I
10
will
o'clock.
touch base. I will touch base with you. We'll pick it up, Al. You have a lot more to say, bro. I literally asked you half of the questions that I have.
Let's do it again. I love
We
it.
will do it. And Al, again, I want to get the plug in there for TNA again.
Yes.
Destination America, 9
Destination
o'clock
America.
Friday nights, and they replay it like all week long. You're getting a lot of television time on that network, which is great.
And they're awesome. It's been, and you know, it's a great show. It really is. And I'm not just saying that. You know me. I wouldn't just say that just because I'm working there. It really is fantastic.
Yeah, and you know, Al, I wasn't a big fan of Spike TV to begin with, so
Sure.
I'm thrilled you're with this new network.
They're fantastic.
But Al, we will pick this up next month. I don't want you to miss your flight, but thanks for the insight. Thanks for the history class. It's worth $1 million to us coming from you.
Thank you. I appreciate it, Vince.
All right, I'll talk to you soon.
Okay, take care.
Bye.